Digital well-being is all about getting a tad more happy. It's also about you managing all those activities that you have in Microsoft 365, which is the focus of the tools I'm going to show you. There's so much going on. You have tasks, you have communication on email, in Teams, maybe other platforms as well. You have information you need to keep, information you need to sort. At the same time, you as an employee, you as someone who is working in this life, want to evolve as well, which means you need to keep on learning. Everything is changing so fast. And that's what digital well-being is all about, making sense of all these activities. The problem, though, is if it's more like all these tasks gets overwhelming for you, and worst case, and this is the worst case, this can lead to burnout. It can lead to you being less effective. It can lead to you being caring less about getting stuff done, and just surviving all those meetings, all that information that's happening around you and to you. And the goal is of get it out of your mind, down into To-do, OneNote, Planner, so that you can organize it, sort it, and prioritize it. I have defined 4 modules for digital well-being. Module 1 is capture, primarily based around To-do as your stash zone. And if you're wondering how you can get started with this, watch my Module 1 video, which is available on YouTube. Going to link it over there. Over there, yep. Today's focus is process and execute. And this is taking that capture methodology, taking that stash zone to the next level by not just having it sorted in the same place, but reflect on it, process it, move it around into lists and groups. Something may be best stored in To-do, other things may be best stored in OneNote. So it's all about succeeding with those activities and making sense of them in terms of processing and executing. One of my favorite topics is executing using the Pomodoro technique. I'm going to show you a couple of tips on how you can induce the flow state, not just during the evening, but even during a busy workday. So stay tuned for that. The rest of the digital well-being module is Teams culture, which will be module 3, and which I will stream next time, and notifications. What you will see, though, is module 1 and 2, capture, process, and execute. Those are highly individual activities. But you can only get so far. You are also dependent on your colleagues and how they work with this. So meeting culture is very important here, but also chat culture and Teams channel culture is very important, especially when it comes to notifications, which will be the module 4 stream. I'm not going to dive into details here on this, but I have an explainer video. We'll link it over there. And you will be able to watch the explainer video where I dive a tad deeper into the different modules. And then I will have deep dive stream, such as we have today for process and execute. So what I will cover today, process and execute using these are to-do activities. This is Viva Insights, and especially do not disturb focusing state. We can even use Power Automate to do some automation and processing. For instance, if you are the person who have been using Outlook rules, you should stop doing that now and use Power Automate, because Outlook is just such a small part of everything you have to process. And emails, we're not doing those internally anymore. We're just doing external emails, which means that if you want to automate something, you should do it with Power Automate so that you will be able to automate so much more than just an email. And I'm going to show you a few examples on how I use Power Automate as a process and execute part. Then diving into the Pomodoro technique and getting stuff done. So important to not just collect the tasks, but complete them as well, it turns out. Yeah. Topics I will cover today are listed here. And we will start with lists and groups in ToDo. We will look at tasks. I'm going to show you a life hack on recurring tasks, so stay tuned for that. I'm going to show you how I organize in OneNote as well. OneNote is part of this story, not the full story as my previous videos where everything happened in OneNote. So the moment ToDo got the ability to break down tasks into actions was the moment I switched from OneNote as my primary productivity tool to using tasks in ToDo and combining that with OneNote. I'm going to show you how I organize meeting notes, and then I'm going to not dive into Microsoft Lists, but let's investigate where lists fits into this picture. How I use it with my team at Cloudway, and what I think you should use lists to. But keep in mind, these are all just suggestions. You may learn something resonates well with you. Something is like, yeah, I saw what you did there, but I'm going to go this way instead. That's okay. Totally fine. And then we're going to look at planning your day. So reserve time, plan your day, do some time management. Very important topic for me. And then how you can organize your day using My Day in ToDo to get started, executing on your task using focus time in Viva Insights, breaking down tasks into action, and I'm going to talk about why that's important. And then at the end of the day, reflect on what you did, how you did it, and how far you got, and what you're going to do tomorrow. Hope this sounds interesting, and let's dive straight into this. The first thing I want to talk about is when we are organizing in ToDo, we want to organize into lists and groups. So let's get started here. The first thing I want to do is create a new list. And the list will be called work. So that's a list group. And under that group, we will create list groups. So give me a second here. I need to fix my PowerPoint. There we go. So I create a couple of lists. This is of sped up, so we can spend less time looking at me typing and more time talking about this. So what kind of list do I want to create? So now I'm creating a framework for me to sort my content into. And these are some of my suggestions of the type of lists I create. And keeping also in mind that this is for personal productivity and not for team productivity. ToDo is a personal tool for your personal tasks. And this means that the groups I want to create are work internal. What is work internal? Work internal is tasks I want to use within my company. So typically tasks I am executing on, which is my job role. It's not customer related. It is me executing on activities that are internal to my company. It could be some internal activities. It could be time management, if I need to put my hours in, and so on and so forth, and I have notes about that, that goes into work internal. Ad hoc tasks that are customer related, so not project related, but they are customer related and not connected to any larger activities. Maybe I have an ongoing dialogue with someone and they ask me some for content. I didn't have time to do it right then and there, so I have captured it as a task, and now I want to sort it into my customer list. So this is maybe the one with the highest priority within all the different lists I have. So if I just want to look at high priority tasks that are customer related, then I will just go into this list and have a look. Next, I have a couple of other personal lists, which is travel and travel expenses. So what's the difference between travel and expenses? Well, sometimes I go to conferences. Sometimes I travel with work. So I book a hotel, I book a flight, I maybe get some information on how to get where I want to go. That's what goes into travel. And the task stays active as long as that travel is upcoming or I am in transit for that activity. A typical scenario here is where I go to speak at conferences as a public speaker. I get a lot of different information I need to take care of. And maybe I need to go in and register a certain place. Maybe I got some hotel confirmations and so on, which means that I can then find that easily. And I will complete them as soon as that information is obsolete. But then we have expenses. So when I get expenses on email or in receipts from other means, it is not an expense management program, but it's me before I process expenses as part of my trip, and I get the expenses as an email. I will flag them, get them into flagged emails, and then sort them in under expenses, so I don't have to search for them when I'm done procrastinating putting in my expenses. Next is learning material, and this is like a generic list. You can call it for whatever, and you can even, if you are learning other topics, other stuff, you can create a list per technology if that's what you're learning, or productivity methodology, or whatever you are learning about. So when I see a post, an article, something that's very relevant, maybe a study guide even for what I want to certify for, I put it into tasks. That's where I capture it, and then I sort it in under learning material, and then I can make sure I find it again when I'm actually going to sit down and study. Next is work from home and Microsoft Viva. So this is just an example for me. Because Microsoft Viva is built on top of Microsoft 365, and it's all about employee well-being and employee experience. And digital well-being is a very strong component and part of that. Which means that when I see articles, I want to see articles like what's the trend in the market. When I see information I want to read, when I find good links on what Microsoft Viva is, research on working from home, the hybrid paradox we are going into, the great reshuffle, all those articles, those contents, those tweets, LinkedIn posts, and so on, I capture in tasks and sort into this category. I also write a book. That book is written on a monthly basis. It's called Office 365 for IT pros, and I write one chapter. But that one chapter is updated on a monthly basis because I write about Teams calling and Teams devices. And the change is happening, it feels like, on a daily basis. And there's so much going on. And I need to make sure that chapter is kept up to date, but I cannot dive into and understand everything the moment I see them. But I have reserved time at the end of the month to update my chapter. I don't have time then to go in and discover what has happened and dive into the different technologies. that is where it's important for me to already have collected this. So that is what I am thinking about for that. So the other list here is quotes and thinking. And look at this technique I'm using here. I'm using emoticons to sprite up the list. You can definitely do that. And did you know you can type an emoticon anywhere, an emoji, by holding in Windows and punctuation mark or dot. That is when you will be able to choose from all like the Windows emojis. So choose an emoji that's relevant for you to make it look nicer. Do that. So for quotes and thinking, I have like this. Yeah, yeah, that's worth thinking of. And then for memes and comics, because I see a lot of like memes that are very funny or very cool that I want to reuse maybe for a talk or maybe just being funny with my team, but I need to find the right moment. That is where I can store those memes and comic strips, and you will see some examples actually of some comic strips I have saved that I will show you during this session even. Those are the work-related lists I create, and these are just examples. And I have more lists that I use, but those are very specific for me, so I'm not showing them here. But I guess you get the format of it. And then I create another list group, which is private. And we talked about this in module 1. Should you use ToDo for only work stuff? And my short answer is no, because there's only one of you. That means we need to sort everything into the same place. But we can differentiate with this using a private list group and then create separate lists for that so that I can sort information for my hobbies, for home activities, and then even, as you see here, I have a shared list as well, which could be shopping list. It could be a list together with my family. Maybe my kids want to list something up for me, or we are going to a trip, so we need to remember stuff. This is how we can do that with a shared list. And I also showed in module 1 how you created a shared list. It has to be done via Microsoft ToDo in Outlook.com and then shared with your work account, because this is your work account. And I also discussed what kind of account and how to sign in to ToDo in the previous stream. So recommend watching that. That is lists and list groups in ToDo. So let's look at how I actually sort stuff into these lists. So I have different content here. I have thoughts for my YouTube videos. I have different things. So I just sort them into these different lists. Here I have an activity that goes in under internal activity. That's where that fit in. So I evaluate each and every task and just move them around. The goal is having an empty task section. So it is like clean and like zero inbox, but in ToDo. This is how I process them. Notice that I'm just looking at what kind of activity it is and not looking into like, oh yeah, which project should this belong to, or how can I break this down, or how can I execute it on it right now? That's not what I'm evaluating here. I'm just moving it into the proper list. So this is a great way to see that that you can get a clean task section and you will find all the activities again. Here you see actually had some duplicate activities. So I evaluate that and then, hey, yeah, these were kind of similar. Maybe I captured that multiple times. So I will rule those out. Then we have flagged emails, and we talked about that in module 1 as well, that we can have flagged emails. And let's pause here for a second. What just happened here? I just looked at a flagged activity here, a flagged email, and I just started. I didn't move it. So this means that I have said that this is important, but I will not sort it out of flagged email. And there is a reason for this, and I will get back to that. The rest of this are travel expenses, flight information, hotel confirmation. So those are typical emails I may sort. And of course, customer activities that will go into the customer sections. That's how easy it is to process this. But this is, of course, part of the story. Now I just like organize things. The goal of doing this is, again, breaking down all those activities you have, because it was only 3 customer activities. And as you remember, I said it, those were the most important activities that I could do. And that means that if I really need to get stuff done, and doing customer activities is what lifts the most weight off my shoulders, that is what I will focus on. And only 3 actions, not the tens on and hundreds of actions that could have been in the unorganized task section. And remember that we captured into tasks. That's our stash zone, but this is where you make it more valuable for you. What I'm going to do now is prioritize. So I will go through all these activities and see what do I need to start, because that makes it look like I'm putting it into important. And let's go back here a second and hit pause, because you see that I'm not going through travel expenses, work from home, Office 365 for IT pros, quotes, and thinking. Those are not prioritized tasks, because maybe some travel information, right? If I'm actually going to that trip and I want to easily find that information, maybe I want to add it as a prioritized, just to have the flight information or something like that, the hotel address or something. But the learning material, those articles for Microsoft Viva, that book, because I don't need to make it a priority, that book, because when I'm updating the book at the end of the month, this is where I will head and go in and find all like the latest news and blog posts I need to look into and investigate. So I don't need to flag them as important. So none of these are flagged as important, only customers and work internal. So that's a very interesting thing to do, because now I'm still organizing and sorting this. And work internal activities are, not all of them are need to have a priority, but some of them. This means that this was a task that someone asked me to if I could do something, and that will get a priority when I see what it is. And this is sent from an email, which you see here open in Outlook. And hey, can you get this thing done? And definitely something I want to add as a priority. But Pomodoro app, maybe not. Maybe that's not a priority task, but I will find it for work internal activities, and then it will turn into a someday maybe activity. Really, it's sorted under work internal, and I will find it there, but it won't be on any on my priority lists. And you will probably see yourself or already experience that you will not probably get through your priority lists, which means that those you are not flagging and don't have other activities to follow up, they will just stay there. But they're there for reference, and someday maybe, right? And maybe you want to create a subgroup called that, someday maybe, or maybe a hashtag called that. So and you are thinking like, oh yeah, can we do hashtags in Microsoft To Do? Yes, you can. Do I use them? No, I don't. Not actively anyway. I have used some tags on some tasks, but since I'm dependent on lists, that's how I live, and I don't create subgroups in those lists by using tags. But you can absolutely do that, and you can easily search for that content within that list, so that you can find everything tagged with Pomodoro, for instance, the Pomodoro technique, if that's what you're investigating, and uh, and you will find all the Pomodoro tagged activities within that list. But I don't use it actively myself. I will probably do it if they get more functionality around it in some way. Right now, I don't use it. The thing is, though, and this is important, regardless of where you have sorted the tasks, they will show up in the important section in To-Do. When you have flagged them as important, that's where the star comes in. You see the star here. And why is this important? Because you can still sort them into very specific groups. As long as you tag it as important, then it will be bubbled up when you're creating that ultimate to-do list for a week, for a month, for a day. And this is where we are very dependent on succeeding with module 1, capture. We need to make sure that we capture everything into to-do. That's the essence of this. Because if you have your information captured in OneNote, captured in sticky notes, captured in To-Do, captured in external productivity systems, captured in a book, captured in, I don't know where we capture stuff. Send yourself an SMS, on email, which you're not sorting, somewhere, right? And that makes it very difficult for you to create that ultimate to-do list. What is the single most important activity, regardless of someone trying to create an agenda for me in Outlook, regardless of someone trying to create an agenda for me in Teams? What is the single most important task I can execute on right now? And you will only know this by looking at the important group and then see all your important actions. And then you can identify that this or these 4 or these 10 activities are the ones I must complete, regardless of what else is happening. You will see later in this video why that is important, to be able to make sure that you know that you are focusing on the best possible action. Let's move forward here. Those were sorting and prioritizing tasks. Next is recurring tasks. There are some tasks that I like to do on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. So I do weekly reporting. As a project manager, maybe just a project attendee, as a manager or a CEO of a company, I do reporting. And I do have tasks that needs to be completed on a weekly basis. They are same every time. So it's more like a template, really. Let's go back here and see what happened. I created a task under work internal, called weekly reporting. I set a weekly recurrence on this, and I'm set which day on the week, and I'm choosing the first day of the week to do this, to complete this action. When I complete this action, it will then come back again immediately with a new deadline. Because I have completed it for this week, but I still need to complete it for next week. So under actions here, I add the different actions I need to do, the different steps, week report, upcoming week report, post in Teams, internal reports on projects, and so on and so forth. Those are the actions I need to do. The goal of doing this is so you don't have to reinvent it, don't have to make it a random routine you have, or you just do it because you always have done it. Make it a conscious decision that this is what I do. I will do it the same way every time, and I will make sure I will remember everything every time. Also, make sure that you add new stuff, because when I add a new activity here in the future, it will come up in the template. And also when I remove them, they will be removed from the template. That's the process of using a weekly recurring task. Weekly reporting, Monday, and then that's the deadline. And that's how I use that. Then you have monthly recurring tasks. Same thing. I have repeat, choose the date, end of month. Then I add end of month activity. So typically when I have a new month, I have both my weekly activities and my monthly activities that I need to complete, which I need to register some external hours. I need to put my expenses in, make sure that's happening. We are sending out end of month wellness summaries, so make sure that we're doing that and remembering to do that. End of month report, of course, and posting Teams about those reports. Those are my activities. I actually have other activities as well, especially as a manager or a CEO. I have employee-related activities that I need to do each month, make sure I approve expenses and so on and so forth, so that everyone gets their expenses paid out in time. What else is happening here? Let's have a look. Oh yeah, I mark them as important. This means that they live in work internal, but they will always show up under important. And I don't need to tag them as important every time they are recurring. So this is how I use recurring tasks. And then now I will show you, I will show you how to hack birthdays. As a manager, as a CEO, and as someone who likes to congratulate people about their birthdays, um, I need to make sure I have a system to capture that, because I won't remember birthdays. It's next to impossible. And you can't rely on Facebook birthdays or something like that as well, because maybe it needs to be planned. Maybe you are traveling, maybe you are doing something else so that you won't be able to congratulate them. And this means a lot for employees. This means a lot to people. Think about yourself. It's always fun when someone remembers your day, gives you some extra attention, make sure everyone else knows about it, and so on. So how can we hack birthdays with ToDo? And I have never shown this to anyone. So those who think that I have a fantastic memory, they will now understand how I have outsourced my memory into Microsoft ToDo. So are you ready for this? How to hack birthdays? Let's go. We create a list that's called birthday. Then we create a task per person in your life. Then we create a yearly recurrence with the birthday date. But then I want to have a reminder 3 or 4 days before. And the information I note down here is the date of birth, the date of birth, the phone number, and the address. So I have that every time. And as a manager, this also helps me if we are onboarding to an external system or partnering with an external partner and they need more information about the people in my team, then I have this information readily available. Also, I write down some actions here. I write down order flowers and then post in Teams. And those doesn't happen at the same time. And I need to remember, did I order the flowers or did I not order the flowers? Did I post in Teams? What did I actually do? So I have that here. It's noted down in detail. Or the flowers take some days, right? So I need to do that a couple of days ahead. I need to know it's a weekend in between, and so on. So I will make sure I have this. When I have this information, I will get a notification every year, and I will complete the task, and it will show up again next year. I will get a notification, and that notification happens both in ToDo and in Outlook. So it will pop up as an Outlook notification as well, which is great for me because I still live in my Outlook calendar. That's where I live. So if an alarm pops up there, I will notice it and I will be on top of this. Two things happens now. I don't need to go around and remember dates, which I probably won't remember anyway. And we are making sure that people feel engaged. People feel, yeah, you get a tad more happy. Both I, as a manager, get a tad more happy because I mastered birthdays, and the person receiving it gets a tad more happy. Receiving some flowers. Flowers are never wrong, by the way. So send as many as you can, but do it for the right reasons. And then make sure you post in Teams so we can celebrate it between everyone. So much. It's just a positive spiral happening right here. So happy birthdays using Microsoft To Do, recurring task, and have a separate list for that. And now you know how I do it. Next is OneNote. Now we have completed setting up ToDo. We have sorted some content in ToDo, and now what are we going to do with OneNote? What's going on there? Let's have a look. What I'm going to do is first I'm going to create a section group. It is almost the same thinking as what you have for list group in ToDo, but in section groups is a group of sections in OneNote. And this OneNote, I demoed in the previous module, so go check it out. I call it static content. There's a difference between the capture or collection section, which you find here. That is where I just store everything. And then meeting notes, which are very important notes. I don't want to mix them up with other stuff. That's why they go into a separate section. And then I have information I want to come back to. I want to save over a long time. They are not like current activities. They are information I want to revert back to. That's what static content is about. It's static information. I need a place to store that information. And before I had this system, I stored static information sometimes on email. Sometimes I stored it like in a random notebook. Maybe I've saved it as a file and stored it in a folder. Now I know exactly where I can find that information. And then I create a couple of groups here and sections. So what we do is first we create a reference section. And that reference section, let's see here. The reference section is the first one I create. Call it references. And that's where I have like information, random information. That doesn't mean I will have a section for it, just random information that I need to know. This is how I outsource my long-term memory. Really, I'm hacking memory here. That's what's going on. And if I'm looking for information that I know I had at some point, I have no clue where I stored it. Where do you think I find it? Under references, of course. And it works every time, works like a charm, actually. Let's look at how we sort information into the references section. So we go back to capture. Here we have Excel tips. I try to note down every time I see the light in Excel. I learned something crazy in Excel and I use it, but I have nowhere to store it. Excel is not something I really work with a lot. But sometimes I learn such a super trick that I can save hours if I do it correct. But I do it maybe once a year or a couple of times during a project, or because the point when you have just when you have created the Excel spreadsheet for a project, then you will just use that formula again and again and again. You will forget, like, how did I actually create this formula? That's where I store my Excel tips. I could, of course, have broken them down into different pages, but I keep them all in one page because there are not that many Excel tips I need to learn. Excel is a fantastic tool, by the way, so you can do so much fun. But there are some basic things that I have learned, like how can you populate all the cells with the correct information based on formulas for not the entire Excel spreadsheet, but only where there are data. Did you know that was possible? I do now. It's in my list. So when how did I do that again? I will go back here and I have listed how I did it. Maybe I understood something as well, because some of these formulas can be very specific and kind of difficult to understand out of the box. That's why I noted down here. Maybe I noted down, like, how did I understand this? At the point of time I understood it, outsourcing your memory. Another way, of course, to outsource your memory like this is to write a blog and do it on blog, because there are probably a lot of other people wondering about this. But that's up to you where you want to do that. I do have a blog as well. That's where I store lessons learned around Microsoft technology from an IT pro perspective. So that's the reference section. And I have one more section I really want to talk about, and this is important, so pay attention. The next one is job role. This one, if you don't have this, you probably have this in your head if you don't have it written down, but you should do this, reflect on your job role on a regular basis. What is a regular basis? I don't know. It could be quarterly, could be monthly, even could be half a year, yearly, every 5 year, so on and so on, so forth. It's a really good way to discover who you are by asking yourself a couple of questions. Why am I doing what I do? How can I do more of what I want to do? What am I focusing on right now in my current role? And is it bringing me forward towards my why? And your why is, why am I doing what I do? And then, right? Those are the questions you should ask yourself. And then you evaluate this, reflect on it, and the goal here, what happens when you succeed with reflecting on your job role, is that you become more conscious of what you want to do. And most importantly, your career shouldn't be random. Shouldn't be, oh, this happened, so I did that, and then I ended up here, and now I'm doing this because someone asked me to do that, and I just kept doing it. That's you not being in control over your career. There's so much fun that can happen if you take control of this. So if you haven't done this before, I recommend doing it on a quarterly basis, just to get to know yourself. And what's very interesting is that you note down your thoughts, your thinking, your goals, your dreams, where you want to go. And then you come back later and see, do these dreams, do these notes, do these wants I have still align with me? Or did my life go in a totally different direction? Which is totally fine, as long as that is what you want. But sometimes you will see that when you come back here a year later and you actually articulated something that you're not able to articulate anymore because you got so busy with living. Coming back here reminds you where you are, who you are, and where you want to go. The result is you getting better at saying yes to what you want to do and no to what doesn't bring you forward. An example on this is you get an opportunity at work. and which is going into a project really deep. It could be a huge career move for you, or it may solve a problem you have, like a billing rate or feeling useful at work. But the topic of the project keeps you where you are today. Maybe takes you in a different direction of where you want to go. Which means that it will be easier for you to find reasons for why you should say maybe no, or maybe not commit fully to that project. Maybe bring on a couple of colleagues so that you can work together on it, so you still be open for other opportunities. And this is like career advice going on right here now. We used to do or and OneNote to succeed with this in the job role section. And think about this also when you are working out, or you are taking a walk, or you are at the bus, or it's super late in the evening. Maybe you're about to fall asleep. That's when ideas start merging and reality becomes mixed with dreams, and then suddenly you have an epiphany. Note that down. The first thing you should do then, note it down into to do in the task section. Don't think about anything. Note it down and forget it. When you process it, you will process it into reflections, into a different page here, maybe as some thinking you had. And then when you actually do the evaluation, that's when you return back to those thoughts and say, wow, this is totally rubbish. Let's delete this. Or, oh my God, this is exactly what I'm trying to articulate. This is exactly what I want to do, and the direction it is. So the other option you have then, when you get an opportunity, it perfectly aligns where you want to go. It perfectly aligns how it will take you forward. You will learn a new technology, a new skill, and that skill is something you understand can be used to bringing you forward. Then it's also so much easier for you to fully commit to this, and fully commit to it through delivering on the projects, but also maybe use the opportunity to learn some more about it. Put in some extra time on being more conscious about how can you learn more from this opportunity and execute on this opportunity. I've been using this for 10 years, and I use it less and less, because when you have reflected on this for 10 years, somewhere down the road you achieved what you wanted, right? And now you need to align, like, okay, I achieved what I wanted. What else do I want? And maybe you're content. That's okay too. That's maybe why I use it less and less, because either it just becomes so much part of the way I reflect on things that I just do it constantly, or I'm just happy where I'm at, and we are doing what we should do, and so much cool is happening. So use it at the tempo you want it to be at. The very interesting thing, though, is to go back to old notes and see, wow, those were some really cool activities. I should take those back and put them in my current future, instead of having them being dreams like 2 years ago. Maybe I'm returning back to that situation where I wanted to reflect more on that. Okay, let's move on. This is a very interesting tool in order for you to evolve yourself, your professionally, but also at home, and maybe you have some dreams there. Maybe your goal is to own a cabin, a boat, or a cabin cruiser, like the both of them, or yeah, whatever. You get what I mean. Okay. Other static content is, I'm a public speaker, so I take all the abstracts I have from years and years back. I store in here. So I create a new section for every year, and then I create all my abstracts. So when I see that I just pitched this idea for that customer, I pitched this idea for that conference, I know what I pitched and what kind of epiphany I had, so I can reuse it or build on it the next time. And if someone, hey, are you able to talk about this subject? I say, yep, here is the abstract, here is my info, boom, super professional. But it's just because I started here and I can find it again. So speaker feedback is also good to store here. So I have speaker feedback from years and years back, and I can easily find it again. And I write my YouTube scripts here, and so on and so forth. And you probably have lots of other static content that you want to create for yourself. Next is where to store passwords. What do we do with passwords? So all my passwords and license keys and very specific information to log on to specific sites. For instance, logging on to my son's school page, for instance, requires a specific sign-in. It's something I maybe do once a year. It requires a specific page. Maybe I needed to do something very specific. I'm not storing that in ToDo or OneNote. I'm storing that in a password management system. And most of the password management systems, they are very secure and they are available on all platforms, and they are built for storing this type of information. This way, I can make sure I have a different password for each service I'm using, and I don't know my password. I have no idea what my passwords are because I've outsourced that to the password manager. But they can also store license keys. They can store secure information as well. I have my credit cards there, passports, and so on, so that I always have that information readily available. And it's like not just multi-factor, it's 3 times factor authentication to get to this information, and it's built for that. So I don't store it in Microsoft tools at all. I store it. I use 1Password. I found that to be good both for my team. We are using it within Cloudway, and I'm using it personally as well because it just works. It has a Chrome plugin. It works on my mobile, works on Android and iOS, works on PC and Mac. So it's yeah. I think that those are important criteria for a password manager. So yeah, don't store passwords and so on in here. So that was section groups in OneNote. Let's see what kind of information do we actually store in OneNote and sort to OneNote. Let's look into that. What I will do is typically emails are what I will store in OneNote. And what I'm doing right here now is, you remember that email that we said were important because I need to process it, but it doesn't go into any of these lists. It could have gone to work internal or customers or maybe private, but I still flagged it as important so that when I'm processing those emails, I will see it and I will see that, hey, yeah, let me sort that information right now. This is an email. So let's see how the technique I use to discover this email again. And this is on a PC, a Windows PC. I mark the subject, and then I search for the subject in Outlook, and then I find the email easily. What then I will do is go and send to OneNote. And there we go. Because we have already set this up. We did that in the previous section, where in the previous module, where we set this up, that when I send to OneNote, I don't think about where to send it, right? I just hit send to OneNote, and then it comes into the capture section, the collection section here. There I will find it again. I will immediately go then and move it over to speaker feedback. And there you go. I have it for later. That's how I sort that type of information. So if it were in logon information to connect to a site without username and password, just information, or it was other information I needed, this is how you do this. This is how you register your time over there. This is, and so on and so forth. A guide or some sort. I will sort it into the static content sub group, and then references or job role or speaker feedback or whatever. So that's the technique I use for sorting to OneNote. There's one more thing though we need to talk about regarding OneNote, and that's meeting notes. I have a couple of scenarios I want to share with you here. There were some questions about that in some previous streams as well. And here are meeting notes. First off, these are meeting notes where I showed you in module 1 how to capture meeting notes. They go into the same section every time. Now I'm taking those notes. So what I go and do, I go in to look at the invitation message, because that's typically where the agenda is. And I can expand on that agenda instead of recreating it. Also, we get a list of all the attendees that participated. Maybe I can do a check mark as well in terms of who were there. I don't need to write down the names. I don't need to interpret the name. I won't be able to butcher the name because suddenly you don't really know how that is spelled, or didn't capture the name. Focus more on that person's role in the meeting. Note down what kind of position they have, what kind of role they have in the meeting, and so that you will remember that instead. That's more important information. But here I note down our decision points, the agenda, and so on. It's good times. Stuff is happening, and I'm ready to publish this. Or this could be a really good source for a summary from the meeting. And one example I will show you is how to post it in Teams. So this was a project, or maybe it was a internal meeting. It was an internal meeting, or maybe it was a social hour for the project or something. Thanks for attending. Here's what you agreed on. And taking straight out from OneNote, super easy, very fast for me to publish this. Another example is or when we have done this, we have posted the summary, because the summary could have been an email as well. I create an archive section here. The archive section is something I don't like to delete things. I would like to keep things so I can find them again for historical purposes. So when I have processed the meeting notes, I move it over to an archive section. And as I wrote here, can be moved to an archive OneNote in time. So maybe every year, on a yearly basis, depending on how much activity it is, so that the OneNote doesn't become bloated with too much information. I can move the content of this archive to an external OneNote, which I'm not opening on a regular basis. But I still have the history there. I haven't deleted anything. So if I need to go back and rediscover what I knew, or we need to, like, what did we actually talk about, and so on, I can still find it again. This is what I do then after I send the summary on email, if it was a meeting with external participants, or if it were a meeting where I have a team where I can post this. I will talk about this in the Teams culture module, where I will dive into how we can reduce the number of meetings. And this is a technique to reduce the number of meetings, because now I can spark a conversation and land information we didn't land in the meeting. I can land it in Teams instead, which means that we may not need to have that meeting about the meeting we had, because we resolved it in Teams. Think about that. And I will talk more about that in the next module. Or if we have a project OneNote and I want to share my meeting notes, maybe we did an assessment or something like that, I will move it to the project notebook, And I may post in Teams with a link to it instead, because everyone has access to this OneNote. So I will just post it with a link, and they can open it, and they will see it on their phone. They will see it on their computer and so on, and can go in, and then they can contribute to the notes as well. Maybe multiple people were taking notes, and then we can collaborate on the summary, maybe use each other's information, making sure we have all the necessary information. But I always take notes on my own, and then I will share the notes after. A good example for this is when we have a design meeting with a customer or within the project. I will take notes on my own. Maybe someone else takes notes, and then we will share them between us. And maybe those notes is something I can give to someone, and they will continue to work on that. And that's where I will move the notes over to another notebook. So that should cover it's still your individual productivity, but it should cover where's the interface when we are thinking about this kind of information and the rest of the team and project work. I won't dive into too much project work because that's so heavily dependent on what the team has decided to work on. So that's why I show you how you can be effective at this, and then you need to adapt with what kind of routine the team has chosen to use. So those were now we have been talking a lot about. I've taught you a lot about how we should work with tasks in ToDo, in OneNote. The baseline we have set right now, that's the essence of processing. The rest of this session will be about time management and how to find out how to focus and working on a single task, which you find under prioritized tasks, important tasks, and how to use My Day within ToDo. But before we move over to that, we need to talk about Microsoft Lists. And you may be wondering, should we be using Microsoft Lists? And I say yes, but Microsoft Lists is Excel on acid. If you're thinking, well, this would be great in Excel, then it's fantastic in Microsoft Lists. So the thing is, and why it's fantastic is that every element is stored as a SharePoint object, which means that it can have versioning, you can lock the information, you can find and revert back to older information, and that's very cool. So we can restore not the full list, but elements within that list. That's why it's Excel on acid, because Excel can't do that. It's either the whole Excel database or it's nothing. So this means it can be measured, can be calculated, you have conditional formatting, and it's accessible through Teams and as a separate app. And of course on a website. So it's widely accessible, and it's progressive, which means it adapts to your screen. I like it a lot. But I don't use it for personal task management, and Lists is not a task management tool. What is it then? If it's not a task management, because you can even have Kanban boards based on category in Microsoft Lists, but it's not built into Microsoft 365 as a task management tool. And that thinking right there is important, because we need to use the tools as designed and intended for in Microsoft 365 as well. The moment you go away from OneNote and ToDo and say, yep, I'm going to focus on lists, is the moment you are trying to create a system within the system. You are back to the good old days where we had to invent everything ourselves. And it only worked on a computer because we needed that specific thing that worked on a computer. So it didn't work on mobile, it didn't work in other scenarios. And when I'm capturing this, I need to program it so that it works. It just doesn't just work out of the box. It's not integrated in the future that Microsoft has envisioned. Microsoft List is, of course, a core product within Microsoft 365, but it's not a task management tool. What is it then? How can we use it? As I said, the moment you think for yourself, oh, this would be great in Excel, then it will be awesome in lists. Here's how we use it and how I use it on a daily basis as a project manager, as a scrum master, as someone that can decide what kind of tool the team should use. That's also important because it's team based. Of course, you can use list for yourself as well. And if you have that kind of data that fits within a database, that's where lists comes in as well. That it could be your database for information. I've been working with speaker coach David Phillips. One of his tips is to create a database of all the stories you have and what kind of emotion they can invoke. Do I have this kind of list? No, of course not, because that's too great a tip. But Microsoft List would be perfect for this because then I can sort on the emotion, I can sort on what type of story it is, I can even sort on when did I use it and what kind of did I succeed with using it and so on and so forth. That would be perfect for lists. So you capture the idea, the story through ToDo and maybe OneNote, and then you sort it. When you organize it into a list. And then that's where you maintain it. This is how we do it. We do simple project management through this. The reason why we're not using Microsoft Project for the web is that it's not flexible enough. We needed a more flexible tool that has the capabilities of SharePoint, where we have the history if you do something wrong and so on. What does this look like? The most important thing we do is making sure that everyone knows what kind of effort there is, effort completed and remaining effort. This information for us is produced outside of the Microsoft platform. We have our own time management system for as consultants. That's where we put in and register our time. I can then, as you see here, the two things going on right now. Let's go a bit back. So first off, I have the ability to. This is a calculation cell based on these two cells, so I can calculate stuff as well. And this is the total effort which gets updated. And at any given point, I know how much effort I have left in this activity. And it's not time-based, so it doesn't really belong into a Gantt chart, but it definitely that effort could be completed maybe over half a year in worst case, right? We just need to know how much effort we have left. The other part here is, and this is, I think, is very important, that you can edit in grid view so that it acts like Excel. This is the layout I use all the time. And when I can do that, I can edit directly. Each element I can edit directly in this view. I can assign it to people. So these are people views integrated with Azure Active Directory. So I'm not just typing a name here, I'm resolving a name. Then we have the status of this. And the moment I change the status from getting started to go, or if you look at the other statuses I have here, maybe we have get started, we have attention, we have completed, and something related to our accounting tool. But the moment it's go, then something happens. And we have the status here. We also have on hold and we have attention. There's one more thing I want to show you before I show you what happened when we changed the status. Because we also have the, maybe I will show that after this. So what happens when we change the status is that it becomes a planner task. Let me repeat what I just said. Because we changed the status, we have Power Automate triggering on when an element changes, and it will create a planner task in a specific plan and assign it to the person. In this way, we can have so many more activities in our list than we actually have as a planner task. I don't think it's make any sense to create hundreds of planner tasks when you're actually actively working on 10. And people don't need to care about planner tasks that are not assigned to them. So we only assign the planner task to the persons involved. And it will show up in assigned to me on the planner here. What I then can do, and this is important, and I said it before, that regardless of where the task is homed, assigned to me, flagged emails, tasks, any of these lists, it will still show up when I mark it as important. It will show up in important. I can click on it, and then you see, so here there were a link to the Teams element. That's when you click on that, you will be move over to the tasks application in Teams. And from there, you can see the planner details. You can give comments. You can see there's a link even back to the SharePoint element where the activity lives, which means that it started, it's in progress because I said go. It's assigned to the correct people. And we can add additional notes here if we want to. Clicking on this link then will bring you back to the actual element where it was created from. And yeah, so that's what I wanted to show you about that. And what is important now is that the master of this task is the list, not this task. You can work on it, complete it. If you complete it, it will also be synced back to lists. It won't fully completed, but we will review it. Like, are we really finished with this, or was it an accident, or what happened? So it's a two-way activity. And if I change the status in the list, the status will be changed in the task as well. Maybe it will go to attention. Maybe it will not be in progress anymore. Maybe if it's completed, it will complete the task as well. So that's really cool, and make sure that we don't have too many lingering actions that we are not looking at anymore. That's what I see happens with Planner way too often, is that we have so many tasks that we created at one point, made sense at the time, but no one looked at it. No one really worked on it, didn't open it really after that creation. So that then we have like so many activities that no one cares about. So much better to use the list as a master, because that's where we live, that's where we run the project. So when we are completing the actions outside of Planner, maybe the Planner task disappears as well, and we only create a Planner task when there is an actual action going to happen. How do we do this? It's super easy, actually. Bear than inconvenience. You use Power Automate to do this. And you can do it yourself today. And the moment a task is changed, it will trigger based on the SharePoint item is created or modified trigger. And then we collect some of the information, make sure we put it into the planner in the correct way. It could even be a to-do task if you wanted to do that and not use planner. It could be an external system even using the Graph API and other APIs that you can push some data into. So much that can happen here. And then you can do it the opposite way as well. The moment a task has changed status, then you can go in and update the task as well in lists. And that's what we do. Use Power Automate to do this. I won't go walk you through the details because that's another story. And there's so much fun you can do here. And for instance, you see I'm capturing the status, capturing the consultant, capturing the link to the list item. All that information is provided by this trigger. So cool. And the moment we create, like, have a new project or something, the person will then get an email if they still have that on, and get a notification, hey, you have a new task, congratulations. But the same way as well, if you have a status meeting and say, yeah, I'm done with that, then I will complete it in the list, and then the task will disappear from their task list because it's completed. So I will make sure I will clean up their task list as well. That's my thinking around lists. And I've seen people saying, like, list is going to replace planner. Maybe not. I don't think so yet. My motto is to not try to make something into it's not. Use the native tools as best you can. Okay. Now we're over to that's nice, Ståle, you are saying that we have our tasks and we know how to, but when are we going to complete all these tasks? When can we find the time to work on this? And you are spending so much time on sorting and cleaning this up and all that. I don't have time for this. How can we succeed with this? Let's talk about that. We need to talk about this. And we need to plan for having time to focus. Here's one of the comics I talked about that I captured. And every time I talk about, no, we can't change, we are too busy. I think this illustrates it so well. And I think busy is a bad word to use. You should never use busy as a word in a professional, in your professional life. Busy just means, if you say, yeah, I'm too busy for that, just means, interprets as, I don't want to do it. I don't care about it. I don't want to prioritize it. Because turns out, if you want to do it, you always find time. And saying, for instance, if someone comes up to your colleague and asks you something, and you say, oh, hold on. I'm too busy to talk to you right now. Try it later. That is you saying, I really don't want to talk to you. Please don't bug me. and also, I don't want to talk to you in the future either. So stop talking to me. Like, talk to the hand or something. That is what busy is. No, I'm never busy. And I'm surprisingly flexible. Like, if people ask me, do you have time to do this? Do you have time for a meeting? And I say, yes, I have time tomorrow. Like, wow. Do you have time tomorrow for a ad hoc meeting? What's wrong with you? Well, I have planned my days, and my days have movable items. So yes, I have time for a meeting with you. Two things happen. I keep the customer, the project, my colleagues in flow. I'm also available to execute on something that suddenly has a high priority. And I'm flexible in a way that I can reprioritize quickly. How is that manageable though? Because your calendar is probably full with back to back to back to back to back to back to back meetings. How is that possible? Well, it's all about planning. And this other comic as well. Like, Bob, I need you to work on this. Like, I'm already overloaded. No, you're not. That's the wrong answer. And then we look at the work and it's like piles and piles and piles. And then, no, I just put it on top here. And you just need to plan your time better. And of course, it doesn't feel great for the person who is not mastering this. But I am so on the manager's side here, actually. Yes. And people who knows me knows that that is true. You should never say no. You should never say, unless you mean it. You should never say or no for no sakes, right? And you should never say, I'm too busy. There is no such thing as too busy for you doing your job. You just need to plan your time better. This is so true. So how can we do this? What's the technique that we can use that I can share with you right now for you to plan your time better? Keep in mind, though, that this technique only goes so far that you can do on your own as the meeting culture and the collaboration culture within your organization. So it's not magical, of course. You cannot solve the organization's bad culture around how they collaborate, but you can try to create your space. And this happens over time by you being consistently by doing it. And then you will be able to carve out some time for yourself to process your activities, to get your day started, to reflect at the end of the day, to be available for ad hoc activities. And the biggest challenge, though, is reserving time. This is the ideal situation. This is like the perfect way of doing this. And that is reserving time in the beginning and the end of the day. I know this is super hard. And it's not always I manage to do this myself. But this is ideal. What happens in between here doesn't really matter. Maybe it's just back-to-back meetings. Maybe it's just you having the ability, the privilege of focusing on one task during that day. That's another situation. But you need to process and organize in the beginning and end of the day. What's interesting, though, is that Microsoft, in Microsoft 365, is helping you doing this now, and I will show you how later. Next is, okay, maybe you don't have time to do it in the morning, and maybe you don't have the time to do it on a daily basis, but at least please doing at the end of Fridays. The point is, though, the more rare you do this, the longer it takes to organize and process your content. Makes sense, right? Because it's just more. So if you are not doing it on a daily basis, try to do it as often as you can. If your calendar ends at 3:30 and you have 30 minutes left, you know exactly what you're going to do. You're going to end your day by processing your mailbox, your to-do, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Then there's one more thing. And I've told you that Microsoft is going to help you do this. In Microsoft Viva Insights, which you have access to if you have Microsoft 365 Business Premium, Microsoft 365 E3 or E5, you do have access to Viva Insights, as an individual. It's included in the package. This is evolving. Right now, what you can reserve and how Microsoft reserve it for you automatically on a weekly basis is focus time. What am I talking about? Well, by going to protect time, you then will be able to see what kind of focus time periods you have. And you can even, if you haven't booked any and you have time available, you can have it book it for you, or you can set up a schedule that it always books that this time for you in the beginning or the end of the day. So what happens then is that you get this special magical calendar event called focus time. And it has a specific characteristic that you can never create this yourself. It is category green, but there's some kind of metadata in there, which means that you can't create this on your own because it does something for you. Let me show you what it does. So if, for instance, you have focus time, 2 hours, then you have end of week to do. I think this is like an ideal situation. Fantastic if you can do this. Or 1 hour you can do as well. But what does it do? And then what it does is put you in a specific setting in Teams, which is something I'm going to show you later. It's later in the presentation. The point is, though, you have reserved time now. And I'm going to show you how I reserve time because I don't really subscribe to this method. But I am succeeding with this by using this thinking. But at least plan for end of day Friday. Do yourself that favor to plan for end of week to do. Get your hours in, sort your inbox, reach 0 inbox, reach 0 tasks. Then you can go into the weekend and be in the weekend because you don't have lingering tasks. And then you can plan Monday. What am I going to do? Are there any tasks I need to do on Monday? Now I'm going to show you how you can complete an ideal day. I'm going to show you the routine you can build for yourself to start your day, to execute on tasks during the day, to break down tasks into smaller actions as well, and also how to reflect at the end of the day. And I try to do this every day in some sort, especially on the reflecting part, but also on the review part. And this is taking straight out of the book of the Pomodoro technique. And for instance, and really, any productivity methodology says that plan your day, execute on a day, review your day. But I recommend looking into Pomodoro. It's super practical, and it explains this process specifically, not the task management process, but how to focus your time. So this is the routine. I'm going to share the routine with you right now that you can build for your day. Are you ready for this? First, the first thing you should do, this is available in English now and more languages are coming. You will get a daily briefing email from Viva Insights, which will tell you that you have time today or you don't have time today to reserve some focus time. So your calendar is full. Do you want to reserve time for catch up on messages? Do you want to reserve some 15-minute breaks in your calendar? Do you want to reserve time for learning? And this is now built into the platform. This is what all the productivity methodologies talk about. You need to reserve time to catch up. You need to reserve time to process. You need to reserve time for learning. Not just every day, of course, once a week, once a month, whatever, but you need to plan your time. It's built into the platform. I don't use these though. I book my own time, but you can have it populated for you if you just don't have an overview of your calendar. So yeah, you can book that if you want to. It will find a good time for it, and so on. Then we'll show you some emails and some conversations that you have that you may not have picked up on. I have found this useful to be semi-useful. This information, I mean, to be semi-useful, and because I have control over my tasks, right? I already have this flag. I may already be executing on this. And also what it showed me, just at a glance, it showed me that, oh yeah, I haven't had a one-to-one meeting with Merete for a couple of weeks. You should maybe think about that. And that may give me an idea. I may not schedule exactly that time, but I will maybe think about, okay, yeah, no, maybe I should schedule that. Here is for Alexander as well. I haven't talked one-to-one with Alexander for a couple of weeks. And this is the type of activities that Viva highlights for an individual, for a team lead, and for an organization. Because it turns out, and research shows, that having one-to-one touches, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, makes you a tad more happy. The research also shows that people that are happy are up to 12% more productive. That's something Mr. Oswald found in the research he did for University of Warwick back in 2012. And then Sean Aker wrote the book on the happiness advantage, and he said that happy people are more approachable, better problem solvers, and they're easier to interact with, more creative even. So that's the power of remembering to do these kind of things. And to get that highlighted may be sparking something for you, or you already have this under control. So I check it. I think once or twice it's a hit where I see, oh yeah, didn't really follow up on that, and it's not on my list. Maybe I have forgotten about it, so it will help me. This email though is totally useless if you are not doing this. It doesn't have to be every day, but if you're not thinking in this way, I would rather, as an organization, that you turn it off and teach people how to opt in if they want to work in this way we are talking about right now. So it doesn't just become noise in your environment, and people are starting to hate Viva because it nags you on a daily basis, maybe on a weekly basis, maybe on a monthly basis. That's a lot of emails that you should maybe not send out to people that doesn't care about this, and implement it in the correct way. Teach people how to start their day. So yeah, I checked this Viva email. Next is I go through my mailbox for today or last time I checked it to see if there are any burning activities I need to take care of immediately. And I saw something in here. I see that Power Automate has failed. I need to investigate why. There's some information here that I don't want to process right now, but I want to review it. So I'm going to flag that as well. And I'm not saying that you should have a zero inbox every day. This, of course, gets more easier the more often you have zero inbox. And I taught you how to do zero inbox in module 1, so check it out. But my goal here is to see, are there any deadlines I'm not aware of that I should have done and can take care of now, or something I should prioritize today? This gives me peace of mind and reduces my stress level, because I know there aren't any festering emails or festering activities within that I haven't been looking at. And I'm still talking about email, even though I said that we should move over to Teams as our primary communication. That's specifically something I'm going to talk about in the Teams culture module. But I still talk with external people, which means that email now is a higher grade communication platform than it has ever been. Now we are starting to use it as intended. So those emails I get, those are from external people, and those may be important. There may even be an opportunity that I may be missing. So I will definitely check those out. Next is finding my important tasks. And again, this is where I see that I can find all the tasks. So what I do is those emails I found, I mark them as important because I want to process them and see. I think I will see if I can do that today, actually. And the way I do that is going through my important list. And now we are back to the essence of this list. Look at this list. This list is the most important list in my life. And the gold nugget here is that the task that I find in here and I decide lift the most weight of my shoulders, that's the one and single task I know I can focus on regardless of what's happening in the world. This is how important this is. And this is how important it is to use one tool for this. Regardless of where it's sorted, it will be bubbled up as something that's important for me, regardless. Now I'm reaping the benefits. This is magical. I see all these activities and I add them to my day. Weekly report. No, I'm not going to do weekly report, so that's not important. I look at these tasks. Maybe I need to study them some more. Oh, what happened over there? What did I just do? what did you just do? I completed a task because I have done this. Remember, I did it. I just forgot to complete it. I moved it to OneNote. I moved it. I even processed it completely. So yeah, I've done this one. So I'm cleaning up at the same time. Moving forward, adding some actions here, and that's my list for today. What did I do at the end here? Yeah, I saw that there were. I just remembered that there were a task I hadn't added that I remembered was very important for me. That Microsoft 365 project. I need to keep it moving forward. I didn't see it on my list here, so I will add it. And you also see that the demo here, this is a planner task. You remember from lists. It's also in here, and I can remember move that process forward as well. This is beautiful, people. And this is why you should use ToDo, create stash zones, organize into lists, prioritize them, because you can create your ultimate list any point in time. Which is great. Now, what do we do with this? There is one more thing we need to do, which is important for you, which is also do that brain dump. So there may be actions that I have in my head that I'm walking around and thinking about that I should have done, but I haven't done, and it's not captured anywhere. And I want to add that in here. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm brain dumping my activities that I have in my head. Two things happen. I get them out of my head, so I'm freeing up space to focus on those single tasks. And I'm noting them down, so I will find them again if for some reason I won't be doing them today. And if you haven't done this before, if you haven't done that capture, if you haven't used ToDo, or if you're moving away over to a new routine like this, take 10 minutes and brain dump all your lists that you have in your head, because all this is all about externalizing your internal lists. If they are for private stuff, note it down in private. If there are something you want to remember that you're walking around remembering, birthdays, memes, quotes, something you want to write down in that book, or something you want to learn, or expenses, travel information, whatever, note it down. What happens when it gets like super duper busy? Maybe before a larger vacation, maybe before your holidays vacation, or maybe before that big project deadline. What happens? Ask yourself, what happens? You start making lists and you start checking them out. What if you can make that into a habit? That's what this is about. There's one more thing we need to talk about, that we're still in the morning here right now, in the first run, is that this is the harder part, but it's great to do in the morning, because that's when you are most motivated and most creative, and better at tackling more difficult activities. So there is a quote that David Allen uses. He's the author of the book Getting Things Done. I'm super inspired by this book. You probably recognize a lot of the techniques I have been using, is creating stash zones, sorting things in bins, and so on. I just translated it over to Microsoft 365. But he uses a quote for, so I'm quoting David Allen, quoting Mark Twain, who says that the secret of getting ahead is getting started. What does that really mean, though? The secret of getting started is breaking your complex, overwhelming tasks into small, manageable activities, and then start with the first one. And this is so simple. At the same time, why don't you do it? Why are you not doing this? Well, now we can. Now we have the toolbox to do it. So if you've been paying attention up until now, we have our priority lists and so on. We start processing our actions. And I have a couple of tasks here that aren't tasks at all. They are goals. And we need to break that goal into smaller actions that brings us to that goal. And a good example for this is the Microsoft 365 project. Let's look at this. So I'm brain dumping and spending 10 minutes brain dumping what needs to be done in order for me reach that goal. And the point is that I only need to do this once. And this is also important, because now I have it for next time. Whenever I have some time on my hand, I know where I am at. I know if there are any small actions I can do to bring me towards that goal. And I really believe in the quote from Mark Twain regarding there's in our brain, if a task is too overwhelming, you will procrastinate it. But if it's like, oh, let me spend 5 minutes doing this thing, or let me spend 2 hours doing this documentation as part of a larger project, a larger deliverable, break it down into small, consumable, and manageable actions. And this is now built into Microsoft ToDo, and you can work this way. You also saw when I created this that I brain dumped, and then I started sorting the actions, the order of them, because there are some actions I need to do before others, and there are some actions that are super easy to do, like take me just a couple of minutes maybe, or maybe if I need to book a walkthrough meeting, maybe I need to find the time of my colleague who knows how we should reach this goal, or maybe have more information about the project. Maybe I need to plan your time so that you can interface with that person. Even though you're not planning to do it right now, it takes you so little time to find that time in your calendar, right? It takes you 2 minutes to find a time that works for you and that person. Or if you don't have that person's calendar, create a calendar requests showing different time, and you can vote on the times and so on. So easy to do that. But if you procrastinate and procrastinate and procrastinate, and then suddenly, oh, I need to talk to that person, my deadline is tomorrow, and then suddenly everything is important, and I call that person at home, off hours, bring them into work mode, and pollute their off time. Or maybe they are super busy with something else, and it's very difficult for them to answer you right now because they are doing a workshop, have back-to-back meetings, as we talked about, and it's not that easy to plan that in on an instant. But if you plan this in 2 weeks in time, probably super easy, no problem at all. Think about that. So this is the essence of breaking it down. And you remember that planner task I had that came from Microsoft Lists? This is what I want people to do when they get a planner task like this. Spend some time, break it down, because that's definitely a goal. Break it down into smaller actions and start executing on them. Spend a couple of minutes, 10 minutes maybe, do this and do it once, and then you can add more stuff as you remember it. Then there's something happening actually. If you do a brain dump for 5 or 10 minutes, the process in your head, it doesn't stop. It keeps going, but you won't find as many tasks anymore. But half an hour later in the day, you remember, oh, there was another task I wanted to do with this project. So it actually keeps going, and that's where you need to start capturing, not by opening this and finding this task. Capture it unedited into Microsoft ToDo. So that's breaking tasks down into actions. Now we are ready. Now we did our 10-minute planning of the day, and then maybe the rest of the day you are in meetings, but you discovered, to your surprise, or maybe you planned for this even, to have a 1 hour available space in your calendar. And then you might ask yourself this question. In the calendar, should I plan to specifically do this task? And my answer is no. But there are always reasons for why you should do that. But it's always no. What I'm talking about is, should you take one of these actions or goals or tasks and put them in your calendar? Like, okay, on Monday at 10 o'clock, I will execute on this specific task. Maybe finished presentation was the worst example, because that's probably what you need to do at that time, and maybe you want to schedule that. But I will send info about customer, right? Should I do that at 10 o'clock on Monday? Maybe. But think about this. What we have just done, what we have in important here is all our most important task. What is your highest priority changes on a daily basis. So if something has a high priority today, it may not have a high priority tomorrow, because maybe the deadline got postponed, maybe the meeting got canceled. Everything is moving. But if you are thinking in a static, linear way in your calendar, then you won't be flexible enough in order to adjust for these reprioritizations. And what happens if you plan for send info about customer at 10 o'clock on Monday, and you had to reprioritize and weren't able to do that? What happens with that calendar event? It just dies in your calendar. So there's no point in reserving time for specific tasks, as long as you reserve time for processing and working on your most important task at any given point. I'm not saying that you should just have a calendar that says to do. I'm not saying that, because I always reserve time for today. I'm going to work on this project. But I'm not going to say that I'm going to work on this, this, and this, and that on the project. That's defined by my priorities. Or these 2 hours, I'm going to work on the documentation. What kind of documentation? That's broken down in here in smaller actions. So there's a difference between like all these ad hoc activities and like scheduled project activities. But don't add like small ad hoc tasks in your calendar. Keep them in here and reprioritize them. And there's one more effect of adding it to My Day, which I'm going to show you in a couple of minutes. But first, let's talk about how you can execute on this. How can you get stuff done in that hour you saw that you suddenly had in your calendar? You have your My Day activities. You know, okay, I have 1 hour. What are like the 2 or 3 or 5 most important things I can do during this hour? Then the challenge is, and you probably noticed this at some point in your career as well, that you started something in good faith, you were in a drive, and then suddenly someone distracted you and you forgot about what you were doing. At the end of the day, you find that draft or that of that email that you planned to send, that you thought you had sent but didn't. And you were like, oh, when should I get an answer to this? I should have gotten an answer by now. And then when you're cleaning up and leaving for the day, you find that draft sitting there and you didn't send it because you got distracted. Something happened and then time was up. Okay, so how can we make sure this doesn't happen or doesn't happen often? The problem is context switching. And this is where the Pomodoro technique comes into the picture. And this is one of my most favorite topics. I'm going to show you some life hacks right now, so pay attention. The problem is context switching. What does that look like? It looks like this. This is your life, or parts of this is your life. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, your favorite news sites, Reddit, your other favorite news site, coffee, tea, water, mobile, stuff is happening on your mobile. Someone is calling you, sending you messages, Snapchats, whatever, right? Is happening. And then now we have TikTok as well. And who hasn't lost hours on TikTok? Suddenly it's like, oh yeah, let me check a couple of TikToks. 2 hours later, and then you're still on TikTok. This is the challenge. This is the daily challenge we have. Can you notice something in here? Your colleagues are not in there because it's you. You is the challenge, not everyone else. They're just like a fraction of what managed to disturb you. It's you who are disturbing yourself. Look at this number, 40%. Okay, that's nice, 40%. 40% what you're saying. And this is kind of disturbing because this number was found and discovered and researched in 2006. And what is it about? The brief mental blocks created by shifting between tasks, as in multitasking, as in context switching, costs as much as 40% of someone's productive time. This is from the American Psychological Association, and the research were done in March 20, 2006. Now we are in 2022 at the time of this recording, and the smartphone didn't exist in 2006. It didn't exist. The iPhone came out in 2007, and the smartphone became mainstream in 2011. And now, 10 years later, we have lived with a smartphone, changing our brains with notifications over a 10-year, over a decade period. That's crazy. So if context switching was a problem back then, what do you think now is the problem? How dependent are you over a vibration from your mobile? What's going on? Or if you have a window open and it starts plinging, bing, 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 and you're like, oh my God, what's going on? I need to check. That's our challenge of the day. That's what the notification module is all about. But that's also something you need to tackle here and now when we are being productive. And the biggest challenge is your phone and all those notifications you have there. But let's talk about that later. The goal, of course, is single tasking, because multitasking is a myth. That's context switching. Those who are good at multitasking are just good at doing context switching really fast. But it's a myth. The goal is flow state, deep work, focusing. When you lose track of time, place, and you forgot you were hungry or needed to go to the restroom or something like that. That's the flow state. That's deep work. The problem with this is that it always happens after hours. Like your family has gone to bed, your colleagues has gone to bed, there is no one expecting anything from you, so that you know that I can focus on this thing now and I know that nothing has happened. So you probably experienced this. What if I told you it's possible to induce the flow state during that 1 hour you have in your day? And it's incredible what you can do in the flow state in 1 hour or 30 minutes or 25 minutes. What if you could induce that? Let me show you how to do it. It's called the Pomodoro technique. The goal is to induce flow states. In order to do that, and this is science, people, so pay attention, you need to focus for more than 10 to 25 minutes. I use it to jumpstart flow states, personally, because if you read the book on the Pomodoro technique, it says that you should take a 25-minute focus session, take a 5-minute break, 25-minute focus session, 5-minute break, 25 minutes focus session, and then take a longer break and then keep going. My life doesn't work that way. I have 20 minutes or I have 1 hour. That's max. I don't have the time to like spread this out over the day. Of course, if I have like one thing to do during the day, but who has that, right? Maybe on a Sunday, then I can do it. But that's not the intention, right? The intention is for you actually, and this is kind of mind blowing. It is actually expected that you should be able to do your job during job time, work hours. That blows my mind, but that's true. That's what you're being paid for, and that's the expectation to reach your goals within the expected allotted time. Of course, I am a manager. I'm a CEO. I like that people does extra effort to reach their targets, but if it happens every day and it becomes a norm, that's a problem. And worst case, you may reach burnout. You may want to quit your job and start somewhere else and do exactly the same, but with less workload. But this technique can help you get more done during the day. So the flow state, turns out, starts between 7 and 21 minutes of constant focus. So let's look at how we can hack this from a Microsoft 365 perspective. Because remember those focusing hours, right? That focus time that you can add in your calendar. And I told you that something magical happens and I didn't show you what it was. Now I'm going to show you. So I have actually hacked this by using ToDo and using Power Automate to automate this. So check this out. By creating a list in your ToDo, you can create a list called Pomodoro, or you can even add a tomato because that's the logo of the Pomodoro technique, the tomato timer. And they call it Pomodoro. What I will do here, will type 25 minutes and enter. And then this happens. Look at this. So I have reserved time, but I didn't reserve focus time because I could reserve time here to talk to other people and do meetings or coordinate something, or that doesn't require me to be fully focused. But the moment I put those 25 minutes in, I copied an older version of this entry and added it to my calendar at this point in time. Okay, that's cool. Um, what's up with that? Let's jump over this and let me show you. So by doing this happens. My Teams client goes into the magical focusing status. Do not disturb focusing status. I'm telling my colleagues that I am focusing right now. So if you try to reach out to me, I will probably not answer. And I won't see your calls if you try to call me without asking me first. And you should ask first. Thank you. So this happens, and this is magical because it can only happen from that calendar event. What is happening is that when I put a number here in the Pomodoro list, I will trigger on that in Power Automate, and then about 3 minutes later, give and take, this calendar event will show up. It's a copy of an older event, so I need to have these in my calendar, this focus time in my calendar. So I will copy one of them and put them for the minutes I have put in here. So if you put 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes long. If you put 25 minutes, it's 25 minutes long, because I sometimes need, okay, I have 15 minutes. Let me do a Pomodoro right now. And there's something happening when you create a routine for focusing. There's something happening around there. You create a routine, you tell your brain that now I'm going to focus. So you need to prepare right now. You need to pay attention there, brain. And because now I'm putting on I'm setting the 25 minutes. I'm telling my colleagues, my team's goals in this focusing status. Look at this, how beautiful it is. Do not disturb focusing. I love it. And it's instantly integrated with the calendar. So almost instantly the status will update. But now you are priming yourself for focus. You're creating a routine, you're creating a space for you to focus. So important. So that's why I don't like I don't like I don't like this. I don't like this one. The reason for why I don't like it, I can use it to schedule those hours for me, but I would rather do it myself, really. I have that much control over my time and calendar that I want to reserve like this instead, end of a week to do, or to do time, or focus time, or whatever. But I don't want to be randomly set in this magical mode of do not disturb focusing, because if I overdo it and use it too much, then I will tell to my colleagues that, yeah, I'm probably focusing now, probably not though. And you know, if you reach me on other methods, I will probably answer because I may be focusing, maybe not focusing, and then you are using that state and overusing it so that people don't trust it anymore. Think about that. So here's how I use the focus plan, which you find by going to settings in Viva Insights. I hack it. So I say that you can book focus time at 9 p.m. in the evening for me. And then I change my availability from 9 p.m. What happened? What did I do? What I did was that you are going to book me meetings after 9 p.m. Do not schedule focus time earlier than 9 p.m. And then I changed my workday to end at 9 p.m. Oh, which means that it will never book any hours for me. Oh, and then what happens is that, yeah, looks like your schedule is pretty busy. We weren't able to find any time slots this week or next week. That's fine by me because I want to book this myself. I have enough of this in my calendar that I can hack it, and this still works. There's one more thing that works, and that is okay. Let's that is the report on this. That will work. I will show you later. There is one more thing I want to tell you about this. This was the simple method. This is the simple method, and this is the geeky method, super geeky method, by using a PowerShell timer to do this. What extra can I do with this? And I hope that someday Microsoft can deliver this natively. But what happens is I will use if this then that to mute my phone for that time. So it will be muted for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 25 minutes, and then unmuted again. That's super important. I won't get distracted. And if someone calls me, I won't get the call. But if someone calls me repeatedly, I will get the call. Or if someone that can break through Do Not Disturb on my phone, they will reach me. So if there's an emergency happening, I will be informed. But this is important, not just blocking out time in your calendar and blocking out Teams. That's just part of your story. Blocking out mobile as well, your mobile phone, so important. And I won't go into detail how I did it because I have a 30-minute video on YouTube for you how to set it up if you're interested in this. And then my mobile goes to do not disturb during this Pomodoro timer. It's the best Pomodoro timer ever, and it will set your to that focusing state as well. Beautiful. But this blows my mind. Totally blows my mind. In Viva Insights later in 2022, and the time you watch this, you will get a native timer in Viva Insights. How cool is this? This totally replaces my Pomodoro timer through the ToDo app. Because this, when you start this one, look at this, 25 minutes is taken straight out of the book, the productivity book of Pomodoro, and you will be set in that focusing status. What do we see here? What's going on over here? Let's zoom in. Wow. It shows you task from ToDo, built in, integrated. And one more thing, it plays the correct type of music to induce flow state in you. This will be built into the platform now. That this blows my mind because we don't have to know about all this anymore. We don't have to like build stuff around it like I have done now with my PowerShell script and the timer in ToDo, and look at my YouTube channel for videos on how to set up that ToDo timer as well. It's now built into the platform. That's so amazing. So when you are executing on this, then now you have started your timer. Your mobile is muted. Your Teams status is set to focusing, do not disturb. And you have reserved maybe 20 minutes for doing this. Remember that, as I said, that it takes between 7 and 21 minutes for you to reach the flow state. And if you haven't practiced this before, it takes a bit longer. And it's when I started with this about 10 years ago, I struggled really, 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 really hard with just focusing for 10 minutes. Like really focusing. Now I think I can, but I still use all these techniques, but I think I can induce the flow state in minutes and under 10 minutes and stay there for quite some time. But I've been practicing this on a daily and weekly basis for 10 years. You need to practice on this and get started today. So you are yourself your worst enemy. And the Pomodoro technique book, I recommend to read it, says that you should note down every time you want to distract yourself. And if you thought that your colleagues were the problem, that's not true. It's you. It's all you. So the moment, like, okay, 4.5 minutes has passed. You have been focusing. Now the thought is starting to creep in your head. And try it. And then note down that it happened. That's according to the Pomodoro technique. And you want to go to Facebook. No. I have 10 minutes left of focus because I said 15 minutes. I can do this. You can do this. Twitter, no. LinkedIn, no. Instagram, no. Those reels can wait. Reddit, oh no, don't go there. Especially if you have posted something and it's going viral. Your favorite news site, what's going on in the world? Something may have happened the past 5 minutes that you need to check. No. Stay on target. You forgot to refill your coffee. And I did not because I have 2 of them. So I'm good. But if I had forgotten about this, that's too bad. You can wait 10 minutes. You have to wait 10 minutes. So that's a no. Your other news site, because like they are similar but not. So maybe there are some other. No. Nope. Your mobile. There was some vibration going on over here. There's something is happening. And it may be interesting, super interesting, probably not though. It's probably Candy Crush trying to tell you that your energy is recharged. Can you please come back and play? That's what's going on over here. So that's a no, big no. And also, hopefully, if you use my PowerShell module, it's muted. TikTok, no. Nope. Even though there may be some really, really good videos to induce dopamine there right now, nope. It's only 9 minutes left. You can do this. Stay on target. That's what it's all about. Don't distract yourself. And it's super hard. I know it's very, very hard, especially if you haven't been doing this for a while or not before, or if you haven't been working in this way. This is what happens in the evenings by itself. This is what you can induce during a workday. Turns out there are more tools available. And remember that timer that Microsoft introduced, it had music as well, low fidelity music. And it turns out research shows that you can reduce the time it takes for you to reach the flow state by listening to the correct type of music. Typically, music with 50 to 80 beats per minute. So if you think that Bach or Beethoven are good music, classical music is good for reaching flow state, you are totally right, because those are music within that range. And there is one more thing that is very important. It needs to be music without lyrics, or if it is with lyrics, it should be a band you have been listening to for 20 years. So you're not listening to the lyrics anymore. Because if it's new music, unknown music with lyrics, you're starting to listening to that and you're brought out of flow state. That's why this is important. So listening to the correct type of music, very important. And use the correct tools for it as well. Use focus headsets. This one is from EPOS. It's the MB660. It's certified for Teams, so you don't have to context switch if you need to jump on a Teams call right after your focus session. It has noise canceling. You can bring it on travel, and it's wireless, it's wired, it works on airplanes, and noise canceling over the air. And fantastic music quality if that's important for you. So look at this type of device, EPOS, Poly, and Bose also have certified devices now, but you need to buy the correct type of headset. So go to aka.ms/Teams devices to find your favorite focus headset. I have a playlist on Spotify. I will link it in the description below on YouTube, where I have my waltz spiral music. So it's waltz, so it's within the correct beats per minute, but it's also spiraling. You know that piano spiral, because that works for me. I get spiraled into the flow state. So I have 44 songs that I've identified that really works for me, and I'm trying to add more songs. And people actually, no, 26 songs, and people actually have 44 likes on the Spotify list, actually. So that's kind of fun. So here's the link, but I will list it in the description below as well. Now we are executing, we are completing tasks. So we are running with this right now, and we are getting stuff done right now. And I will exit this and then go back in and play this. So yeah, I'm executing on simple tasks in the task I broke down as well for next time. I am doing those ad hoc tasks as well, contact customer, all done. And I'm maybe have executed on some other activities as well. The newsletter, yeah, I reviewed it, but this one's important. What's going on right now? What's happening? And this is a hack, people. This is a hack. What happened? What did you just do? What did I just do? Look at this. I did something that weren't on my list, but suddenly had high enough priority for me to focus on it. So I did it. It wasn't on my list, so I added it and completed it. And there's a psychological thing with that. When you're reviewing your day, it will be on that list. And you get a ding. That sound, you should actually keep this sound in ToDo, so you get a ding sound. And completing tasks is addictive, which leads you to wanting to complete more tasks. It's that addictive. So in a good way, we are hacking that addictiveness now with that sound, with completing stuff. We are adding stuff and completing them. This is the correct way to work in ToDo. And then, end of the day, end of the week, you will actually get a report that 4 out of 4 days you had focus time. And remember, it weren't automatically booked. This is me actually focusing. And I managed to do it all days last week. But there are only 4 days here. Aren't typically a 5-day the work week? Yes, it is. But we have no meeting Fridays, and that's not counted as a work day week. But I will talk about that in the next module. But this is beautiful. This is like you're getting that feedback loop now from the platform, you completing stuff. That is what it's all about. But now we are about to end our day. So we have been working throughout our day. We have been completing tasks. We have been running Pomodoros. Maybe if I get to run 1 Pomodoro during a day, I am super happy because I'm so incredibly productive during a Pomodoro. I can tackle a difficult conversation on Teams. I can reply to a complex question from a customer, and that's what the kind of quality you get when you are focusing like this. So important. Now let's end the day and reflect on the day. And this is also taken straight out of the name your productivity methodology, really. Pomodoro technique, getting things done, whatever productivity technique you subscribe to has this. How can we do this? Use virtual commute in Microsoft Viva Insights. You have access to this as long as you have Microsoft 365 Business Premium, E3 or E5. You have access to this. So by going to protect time, you are able to go in here and say wrap up and mindfully disconnect. And when do you want me to send a reminder to you? I want you to send me a reminder every day at 4:30. I'm pretty sure I have wrapped up my day by then. And this works on mobile as well if I want to do it while I'm commuting, or I want to do it just before I close down on my home office. And every day. I'm still testing this, and I have mixed feelings about getting a notification about this, but I won't be doing it as often as I should if I'm not getting this notification. So I recommend setting up this plan. I can start it directly from there as well. And the first thing it shows me, and the circle is now complete. The circle is now complete. It shows me how many to-do tasks I completed today, even those I added into to-do and completed immediately. This is so important. Sometimes you may be feeling that I didn't get to do anything today. I had this awesome plan, but it fell apart. Yes, that may be true, but you did these 10 other things today, which apparently had higher priority. So you should be happy with what you did. But there are a couple of tasks here that are still lingering in my day that I planned to do but didn't do. What should I do with those? You can ignore them, of course, and then they will just go back to being important. But I have discovered by committing to a task, by adding it to my day, increases the chance plentyfold for me to actually complete it that day. So when I see it here and I forgot about it and I say, hey, yeah, but this is just a 5-minute task, I will just do it right now. And I would have done that if it weren't on my day. So that's another effect you have of having a task on my day. So what I will do then is organizing lingering tasks. And here I will remove a task from my day. It wasn't important at all for me to do this. My priorities changed. It was maybe a best effort task. And then I have another task that I want to schedule for Monday. And I'm actually going to schedule this because that's how important it is for me to get this done. So that finished the presentation. I didn't get to do it today. It's not a disaster that I didn't get to do it today. This means I need to do it on Monday. I must do it on Monday. So I remove it from my day. And then send that info to that customer. That's something that probably takes me 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I don't know what kind of info they're asking for, but this is the type of task I would have committed to do just because it's on my day. And to finish this completely. So that last task, I will complete it now. So I will actually go and complete it directly from here because I went and completed it and it's done. It's nice. I get a nice and an exclamation mark, and I feel good about myself. Complete control, 100% control over my day. How cool is this? Okay, next. And this one, reflect on your calendar for tomorrow. So important because I will now prepare myself for tomorrow's calendar. And what I look for is, are there anything I need to prepare for that I haven't prepared for? And suddenly I see that, oh, I have this meeting tomorrow where I was going to prepare something and I haven't done it yet because it's been falling off my prioritization list. What should I do with this? Last time I did this, didn't prepare. It totally fell apart in the meeting and I had a really bad day. The customer wasn't happy and I wasted people's time, really. I need to prepare. And I committed to do that. When should I do this? Do I need to do it tonight or can I do it tomorrow? Turns out I have an hour tomorrow that's flexible. I will do it then. And what just happened right now? Me planning to do it tomorrow in a controlled fashion instead of me panicking at 10 o'clock this evening because I just remembered I had this meeting or I just randomly saw it on my mobile and then it ruined my evening. I became stressed. I needed to scramble to do something. I didn't plan for this and it breaks my evening totally. Now I did a calculation. I could have done it tonight and then I can plan for doing it tonight on my time, or I found some time tomorrow, so I will do it tomorrow. I will be prepared. Meeting will be awesome. No one knew that I almost didn't prepare. The other thing I'm looking for are things I have invited to that doesn't have an agenda. Or it's a meeting that I booked like a month ago and I want to prepare the mindset of those attending the meeting. So I will post in Teams channels if it's a project meeting or a team meeting that, hey, we have this meeting tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. This is what I will go through. I hope you can prepare this for the meeting. Have a great evening. Then people will not come like with blank minds to that meeting, and they will be prepared. Maybe they read it 5 minutes before the meeting. That's totally fine. And I have given them an agenda. I am not wasting their time by spending like 20 minutes just to figure out what this meeting was all about. The third thing I'm looking for is double booking. Suddenly I see that, oh, I'm double booked. I forgot to let them know that I'm double booked, and I can fix this now. Either I say, hey, I need to move this meeting. I'm double booked, but you're doing it now the day before, which is better than not at all, or the 5 minutes before, right? So I'm double booked, and can we take it 30 minutes later? Can we take it? I have time. These are my time slots, and let's fix this. Or you're double booked, but the other meeting wasn't that important. So you just will let them know that you are double booked and you won't be joining, and that's okay. But you have informed about it. The worst thing you can do is not know about it and not tell anyone. And then they are waiting for you and then checking, oh, yeah, no, I see that person is double booked. Probably not coming. We don't know really, but let's start. And then, oh, you came. Oh, you're just late. Okay. Yeah, we didn't think you're wasting people's time. Don't do it. All these scenarios have happened to me just by looking at this calendar and just by reflecting on it at the end of the day, so that I can completely disconnect after this exercise. But I have planned to prepare myself tomorrow morning. And I can completely disconnect. I 100% know where I'm going to be. Another challenge that we are going to have these days is, whoa, this was a physical meeting and it takes me 40 minutes to travel over there. Is there a Teams link in this meeting? Oh, it says it should be on site. Ooh, okay. Yep. Okay. I need to plan for this. I need to. All right. All right. All right. So it's good to know this that I need to be there physically and it's not just a Teams meeting. So, yeah, where am I going tomorrow? Very important. Then it asks you, how do you feel? How do you feel? And the first time I did this, I was like, what? Is Microsoft asking me how I feel? What's going on here? What's happening here right now? And I had to research this. Turns out that you looking inward and just reflecting on how you feel just for like 10 seconds makes you a tad more happy, a tad less stressed just by the action of you doing it. And then you can use this opportunity to reflect on how you feel. And when you have completely succeeded with this perfect day I'm talking about, where you got your stuff done, you got to run some Pomodoros, you have full control of your tasks, you organized everything, zero inbox, zero tasks, and you planned what's going on Monday, and you have planned to prepare for that meeting. You are super happy. This is great times. Then reflect on, why was it such a great time? Well, you got to do what you did. And try to do it more because it makes you feel good. Try to do more of what makes you feel good. Maybe you were able to prepare for that meeting and it was a great meeting. It was high five all around. It was like this after the meeting, right? And people came up to you and said, fantastic. Now we can move this project forward. Now I understand this technology better. It's so great that you prepared for this because I didn't. So someone prepared at least, and wow. And then someone reaches out to you, which is not your manager, but maybe that senior resource that's not obliged to say good job, which said good job to you. And you were like, oh, I got that good job from that person that's first off not obliged to do that. It's not in their contract to do it because they're just my colleague, but they know their stuff. And they said to me, good job. That makes you happy. And for days, maybe. Makes your day. Try to reflect on why that happened so that you can do more of it. But it's also okay to use the other side of the scale. Like, this was a super crappy day. I'm super stressed. I'm angry. I'm sad. I didn't get, and people like gave me feedback I didn't like. And I was going to this meeting. I thought I could ace it. I didn't prepare at all, and it didn't go well. Then reflect on that too. And try to articulate why it happened. Maybe open your job role section in OneNote and note down what happened. Because then when you go in and reflect and say, that's so far outside of my job role that next time I should either say no to that activity or say, I can do it. I want to do it. It's within my direction I'm heading. So I really want to succeed with this, but I need time to prepare. I need help preparing and letting you know in advance that that's happening for me to succeed. That's the best reflection you can do of a terrible day. How can you make sure you're not placing yourself in that exact same situation again? And this takes time. It doesn't change overnight, but having that reflection, so important. And then it ends with meditate. Meditate. I'm going to pick up the kids at school. I'm going to go to the grocery store. I'm going. I have. I don't have time to meditate. I'm going to go to the car and be commuting for 2 hours now. I need to leave. But it turns out, and it's in this book. It's in the book The Happiness Advantage. I think it's even in GTD. I think all the productivity books says, if you want to really clear your mind, you should meditate. And now you actually are in a perfect position to do that. You reflected on what was great. You reflected on what wasn't that great. You have done your calendar, done your tasks. There is nothing left now. And I urge you to look into it. I'm not a meditator myself, so I'm looking into it myself. And but I think this is very ambitious, though. Like 10 minutes. No, no, thanks. That's not happening ever. And let's circle this back then, to use a corporate term, to Mark Twain, who said that if the task is too overwhelming, instead of it not happening, try to break it down into smaller actions. This is what you can do with meditation as well. Start with a 30-second breathing exercise. I use Fitbit, and Fitbit has a 3-minute breathing exercise, which I think is too long. But it's built into my watch, and I try to do that instead. And it's amazing what it does for you. So, okay, don't do this 10 minutes. Do a 30-second breathing exercise. Close your eyes, breathe in, breathe out. Just by me doing that like one time, that did something for me. That's not that's also meditation. It's like a simple way, but it's not like deep meditation. You're not coming an elevated person immediately after work, but that's a long process. But breathing exercises are really good. So try that as well. And then enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much. And that's process and execute for you in a nutshell, ending your day the correct way. This is a lifestyle. And I urge you to take what resonated for you with this lifestyle and adapt your lifestyle the way you want it to be. I can tell you that this works for me. And this is the way I survive my life. As a CEO, as a marketing person, as a salesperson, as a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional, as a Microsoft Regional Director, as a mentor, as someone who is interested in technology, as a public speaker, as a course holder, and all the other roles I have. I haven't started with my family yet, or my hobbies, and so on and so forth. Because I outsource memory, I outsource everything I can outsource, really. I don't spend time looking for stuff because I know where it is, or I don't really know where it is, but I know where I can find it because I store it the same place every time. I'm hacking those stash zones. So we looked at sorting and organizing tasks. We're looking at ToDo versus OneNote versus Microsoft Lists. We've been looking at time management. You reserving time for doing what's most important. And this is the key. I told you that if you ask me today, do you have time tomorrow for a meeting? There's a high probability that I will say yes, if I see that that's something I should prioritize. Or I would say, yes, I can do this with a short time span, probably during this week. And being as busy as I should be, that shouldn't be possible. But it is, because I have reserved time to work on my most important task and not something specifically. So I don't have back to back meetings. And I try to avoid that as much as I can. And that brings us over to Teams culture, which we're talking about in module 3. So pay attention to when that video launches as well, and go and check it out. So we used Microsoft Viva Insights. We used Power Automate to do some automation. You can even take it a lot further than I have done. We used ToDo in order to organize and prioritize and create our day. We use the Pomodoro technique to get stuff done. And we use the Viva Insights in order to help us plan our time. And then good times happens when you get stuff done and you hear that ding, and you get the report. You managed to do 10 tasks today. Fantastic. None of them were on my day list, but it's fantastic nevertheless. This is digital well-being. When you just succeed with what we talked about today, you become a couple of tads more happy, and happy people are more productive, more approachable, more creative. Like, only good things can come out of this. But keep in mind that you need to do the capture. You need to start thinking about your team's culture with the rest of your team, how you do chat meetings and team collaboration, and you need to take control over notifications. So this is just part of the story. That's why I'm launching all these 4 modules. And yeah, it brings a smile to your face. And digital well-being is about taking control of all these different activities and sorting them out in these modules. And it's good times. Thank you very much for watching. I hope I've managed to show you how you can improve on your task management skills, your organization, and how to execute on it. Thanks for watching.